Namaste, viewers. I'm Vibhuti Jha. This is Jaipur Dialogue USA. And as always, please like, subscribe, and support our channel and give your feedback. Uh, Today is a very important day. It's a 1 year anniversary, tragic and sad anniversary of October 7th that happened in Israel, Gaza, and the rest is history. We know that. So, in the last 1 year, we have seen number of killings that have happened, both of Palestinians, Hamas, Israelis, rape, murder, killings, brutality. You have seen of a variety that almost shocks the conscience of the world around us. If it doesn't, that's the sad part. But I want to take a step back and I want to mention about it that India had been a victim of Islamic terrorism for a very long time. India tried very hard to reach the message to the West that you can't be supporting entities like Pakistan, which are home to Lashkar and many terrorist outfits, launching a proxy war on India. The West always poo pooed it, ridiculed it, and branded it as freedom fight. Somewhere along the line, in the annals of history, that will be known as the most shameful demonstration of Western countries' empathy towards India. None whatsoever, because they were playing a different kind of a game with India. When 9/11 happened in America, I was here again. That's the time when, for the first ever time, America woke up to that reality that, oh my God, this can happen right in our own backyard with such ferocity and such vulgarity that shocked the minds of most Americans, ordinary Americans. I'm not talking about the conspiracy theories and all that. But that incident that was caused and happened, it was done by a certain group of people belonging to a certain faith. Now you will wonder, why am I not using the name faith? Why am I not calling them Islamic terrorism? I'm coming to that in a brief moment. But the important part is that is the time when the global democracies awaken to the reality that Islamic terrorism is something which cannot be ignored. In between, you have had any number of instances that have happened between Israel and Palestine and Israel, Iran and Hezbollah, Hamas, all those people, groups of people. But what triggered me to do this conversation with you today was President Macron of France made a public statement in which he said that all the countries of the world must stop selling weapons to Israel that is fighting an existential threat. These are not his words, but he said they must end supply of weapons to Israel. Which means what? That NATO or France or European nations, the European imperialists and colonialists who have caused maximum problem to the world stability and peace, they are being pompous enough to say that Israel, a country of 7 or 8 million people, doesn't have the right. It should be prevented from waging a war to protect and defend its own people, its own country, and its own faith. Do you realize the significance of President Macron's statement? That's what triggered me to talk to you today. What has the West learned? Now, we know certain things very clear. In India, we have been a victim. Hindus have been a victim. I deliberately talk about November 26. I was in Bombay that day. And important part was that was a complete massacre of innocent people in prominent locations of Taj and Taj Hotel and Oberoi Hotel and everywhere else, and in public railway stations. And that was all to spread terror and dominate the political narrative in that part of the world, done by Pakistanis. This also is known. What we do know also is that the Congress party at that time tried very hard And they were almost waiting for it to happen to declare saffron terrorism as the cause of those attacks. Thankfully, by divine intervention or otherwise, by the sacrifice of a Havaldar who successfully captured Muhammad Qasim, we would not have probably known anything. Muhammad Qasim took it took 3 years to convict that man who was visible evidence on video of going around with AK-47 and doing what he was doing. But it took 3 years to convict him. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because there is a process in democracy, a rule of law, which allows people to seek justice. Now, this is very important. It's almost tragic, shameful, and a tragedy that those people who are doing this are taking advantage of the democratic means and democratic rules and democratic policies, right? Then happens, you have 26/11, then you have October 7th last year in Gaza, in Israeli territory. We know the brutality of it all happened, but what happens has happened after that. You have seen that Hamas, not Palestinians, Hamas supporters have been going on virtual strike down of bridges, tunnels, and the social society, social living beings, that Israel must be finished. And if you are supporting Israel, they will do whatever it takes to bend your knees. That's what is happening. What has the world learned from this? I'm not even referring to London terror, buses getting blown, or Spain where the train was blown, and any number of instances. It is estimated that on an average, higher low numbers being what it is, 24,000 people are killed in terrorism-related deaths. Terrorism-related deaths. Here is the important part. You know, when Macron makes a statement that Israel must not get weapons to protect and defend itself, why didn't he make the statement that Hamas, Hezbollah, and all those, Jaish and others must not also be made sure that they also don't get the weapons? Because it is important to know that the Security Council 5 countries, United Nations Security Council's 5 permanent members, these people, these countries, are the largest exporter of weapons around the world. Largest. These 5 countries. These are the largest weapons suppliers to every part of the world. Then comes others. Where do these terrorists get their weapons from? Who gives it to them? We have seen many movies where domestic agencies are supplying weapons to various vested groups for the political ends. But what is important here is that how this entire terrorist-related atmosphere is used against democracies. Freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Here is a problem. I have a problem. As a Hindu, as a Sanatani, I am not against any religious beliefs, because we ourselves have so many practices, so many gods, and I would be careful, not so many gods, so many deities, so many avatars, and we respect and honor and accept various avatars as our life savior or elements of education or learning. For us, Islam and Jesus and Muhammad are also part of the pantheon of religion or practices. So for us, it doesn't matter. The freedom of religion becomes an element of suspicion for only one reason. Because when you force others to accept their way of life, and when they condemn you and your practices, our practices, as anathema to their existence, then there is a problem. I always say this. If you have found Muhammad and Allah to be your savior, I'm glad for you. I'm honestly glad for you. But don't tell me that I'm wrong in my worship of Krishna or my worship of Shiva or whatever I pray to. That's where I am not given my freedom of religion. This is what is important for us to understand. If we do not demand reciprocity, you will not get respect and acceptance. It's only when you demand reciprocity and respect and acceptance follows thereafter. You have a right to criticize my faith. I must have similar, exactly similar right to make inquiries about your own faith. Forget about criticism, that comes later. Even wanting to learn about it is branded as phobia. But here is an important part, and I give credit to Islamic theologists and the practitioners. They understood the mechanism of democracy, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. And what they did was to educate us around the world about the peaceful nature of Islam or how great that faith is. But they are not willing to listen to our faith, give any respect to our faith, or accept our faith also as a part of life. That's the problem. Not only that, they have mastered the democratic tools of votes, of peace, and responsibility and accountability. What do they instead do? They practice a vote bank politics because in democracy, votes matter and they unite to vote together. So they become a vote bank in every democracy, and that's the reason why Macron chooses to pander to that vote bank who are 9 or 10% or 11 or 12% in their country because they vote en bloc all the time rather than to cater to the truth that you cannot kill people indiscriminately. The second element, which is very important, they are on the spree of teaching us that even that even asking a question about Muhammad would lead to attacks of phobia, Islamophobia. Where is that? Where does that come from? Where is freedom of speech a threat to anybody's existence? Freedom of speech is not about standing in a public park or talking for an hour. Freedom of speech is actually all about making inquiries, wanting to know what it is, the who, why, what, and where. These are the four canons of learning. What happened, where it happened, who did it, and why. That's the reason why anytime a killing happens, you notice in America that police is trying to figure out the intention of the killer. How would we know the intention of the killer? What do you do with that? So if you do not address the intention of the person who considers you and I as non-believers and kafirs who need to be eliminated if they don't convert. Remember the slogan in Kashmir? Convert, leave, or die. If you are following the practices of that ideology, where is mutual coexistence? It becomes a joke. The whole concept of mutual coexistence and a peaceful living becomes a joke. And to what end, to what purpose, to what faith do I convert to? A particular sect that they have internal battles with. The other part, which is also important, is the how the Islamic terrorism has entered the process. As I told you earlier on, vote bank, and they immediately resort to street violence. They don't bat an eyelid. They don't care for the rule of law or equality or justice or equity. They care only if you do what they want and you don't do what they don't want you to do. So here is an example again. Unfortunately, there is a definite modicum of the decency of the words used, but they resort to violence at the drop of a figurative hat, if I may use that phrase. And that's the problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I wanted to say this. They are very good in past masters. They're very good past masters in vote bank, managing their vote bank, resorting to street violence and victimhood. Why that is important? Nobody tells them that you have to look within to recognize what's wrong or right. But they don't take that responsibility. They straightway blame everybody else for their problems. Yet they want to live in your and my country and tell us that why we are wrong by not following their principles. It is not a laughing matter, it's a very serious matter. If the world doesn't wake up to this reality, it will be too late. Because violence, if somebody uses violence as a tool of their freedom of speech and religion, where do you and I have any chance to survive against that? Because we talk about peace, they talk about violence. We talk about saving lives, they talk about dying, killing. So, ladies and gentlemen, these three events, October 7th, September 11th, November 26th in India, one in New York, the other one in Mumbai, New York, and Israel, Gaza. These are eye opener moments. This is where people get exposed. Today, I'm glad Macron is exposed. President Macron is exposed. He wants to cut down the supplies to Israeli people. They can't protect and defend themselves. And here is another important part. The whole world has suddenly begun to like the word proportionality of attack, or Israel is disproportionate in its attack. What is proportion actually, if you ask me? A country of 7 to 8 million people, one country of 7 to 8 million people, a country called India of 1.4 billion people, are facing 56 or 57 countries. Many of them are friends and understanding of that. But there are those who do not, who have their own proxies to do that, who use the ideology. So people have no right to protect themselves. And if I hit back, oh, you hit back disproportionately large. So if you kill one Israeli soldier or one Indian soldier, in terms of proportionality, how many must die on the other side? These are issues that obfuscates the matter, confuses the matter. What we have to be clear about is that if you come and punch me on my nose, then you have to bear the consequences of my response. At that time, I may not have the time only to punch you to the exact degree on your nose. I might beat the pulp out of you because you did an unprovoked attack on me for no reason at all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious matter, demanding every sane individual in the world has to arise, awaken, assert, and act, and demand reciprocity, respect, and acceptance for every religion that is being practiced in the world around. You be yourself, leave me alone. It's a famous Raj Kapoor song, मुझे तुमसे कुछ भी न चाहिए, मुझे मेरे हाल पे छोड़ दो. Don't try to send me to heaven or hell. I don't need that. I don't need your absolution. I don't need your mercies. Leave me as I am. And to that end, the democracies have to arise. You cannot surrender in the name of protecting and defending only one faith or the aspirations or hurt feelings. What about responsibility and accountability? So we are passing through an amazingly tricky time. You do not know when, people will use the civilians to protect themselves. And when civilians are killed, then you accuse others for why are you doing it? You have to understand the dichotomy of it all. Thank you very much for watching today. And please like, subscribe, and support our channel. As I always say, truth must triumph. We have a beautiful word in our Sanskrit language, Satyameva Jayate. This is something exactly what Netanyahu talked about in his speech and response to Macron's statement. If you haven't watched it, watch it. There is a confluence of interest. And if the confluence of interests do not join, then we have a problem. we have the solution too. Let's go for it. Thank you.